polymorphism is the overload. So we already talked about override, where the method exists in the parent class. We did that return product, and we did something a little bit different for each one of them in the child classes. So this return product and the child blocks it from the parent. But sometimes we want to have the class act differently based on certain information that gets sent to it. So in this case, I created a television that has 6 pieces of information to get created. I've got the name, I've got the price, the SKU, the brand, the resolution, and the is smart, and all 6 pieces of information are required to make a television. But let's say that I wanted a television to be made, but I didn't want to include all of that information. I can go ahead and make another constructor or another method. It doesn't make a difference, it doesn't have to be a constructor, but the important part here is that the method name is the same, just like we did for override, but instead for override, we had to match all the different parameters. Here, what we're going to do is we are going to change the number of the parameters. So for one television, I'm going to send it 6 pieces of information, and for another television, I'm only going to send it 4 pieces of information. Now, I still need to adhere to the parent requirements, and that parent still requires name, price, SKU, and brand. So I cannot remove those 4 pieces of information. So I'm going to go ahead and take the bare minimum and allow you to make a television, but I'm not going to populate resolution and is smart. So now I have 2 methods that have exactly the same first parts of the signature, but they have a different number, order, and types of the variables. Now, if I want to do another one here, and I want to do public television, and I didn't want to pass in anything, that would not be allowed, because for my product, my parent class up here, I need to have information. Now, I could do this. I could do public product and make a default that does not require any pieces of information. And if you remember, by default, Java makes this particular constructor for us. But as soon as we do a different constructor with parameters, Java does not make this one automatically. So I would have to specify, okay, I want you to be able to make a product class with no pieces of information. So now I can make a product here, which then allows me to make a television here. There still is an implied super, because it's going to have to make an object of that parent class. But since there's nothing required, you don't need to type that piece of information in there. But if you are passing information in, you do need to use a super. But I'm going to go ahead and use the super keyword here to go ahead and just make sure we're aware that when I make a television object, it's also going to go up to super. And here it's looking for a constructor that meets its requirement of 0. So it's going to run this particular piece, which has no attributes that go into it. So all of these attributes are not going to be set, or they're going to have default values. They're still going to be set. They're just going to have default values. Now, if I go back to start, I can make a television, and actually up here, let's go ahead and make another television. Whoops. Go ahead and copy that one. I'm going to go ahead and paste that down there. So I can make now a television with no pieces of information in it, and I can make a television with just the 4 pieces of information in it. And I'll go ahead and call this television A and television B. So everything is good. So this looks like I took out too many pieces here. I need to put that Sony back in, because that parent, if I'm calling it, I need to meet all the requirements for that parent. I can't just meet part of them, so that everything is good in that case. And now if I want to print those out, I can go ahead and print out TV A, and A, and I will do the same thing and print out TV B, TV B, TV B, and TV B. Okay, now if I run that, so the first one, I create my TV here, and I pass in all that pieces of information. And the next one I pass in here. So you actually don't see the difference, because we're not doing the toString. That's something we're going to have to address maybe in one more video here. But the last one, I used the defaults. There was nothing passed into TV, which means nothing got passed up to product. So even though I was allowed to create the objects, everything is at a null value in that piece of it. So that is overloading. Overloading is different from overriding. Overriding has the same exact signature, but the overriding happens in a child class and it overrides the parent method of the same signature. Overloading can be either across the different classes or within the same class, and you have the same access modifier, return type, and method name, but you change or change the data types, or you change the number of your parameters that are required so that you can call them. So if I look at television here, these are all constructors. They all have the same first part, but they all have different numbers of parameters on the back end. This one takes 6, this one takes 4, and this one takes 0. Okay, thank you.